Alison, what exactly are prosecutors looking into right now?
So we don't know exactly what they're looking into. What we do know, at least from our Bloomberg reporting team, just is the fact that several requests have been sent out to the banks. I did speak briefly with Elliot Stein, who's our legal analyst, and his view is that the focus of the probe may be on Archegos itself and not potentially the banks.
What would we see as a potential outcome to such a probe in terms of changes to the regulatory environment?
So I think it's not surprising. I think that we have this probe. We have a lot of regulatory probes going on. There's a lot out there. I think this probe is perhaps again more focused on Archegos, but there are certainly regulators globally looking at the issue. And I think there's. I guess I would say two key things. One is there does seem to be some reporting differences within the family office, especially when they're a prime brokerage client, and that transparency certainly was a contributor to some of the blow-up here, if you will, and some of the pain at the banks. And so that, I think, is something that regulators will want to look at in terms of transparency and reporting. The second point I would make is that if you look at the losses, there was about 10 billion losses across a handful of banks, but the risk and reward was certainly not commensurate. Right. So if you look at someone like Morgan Stanley, 1 billion versus a top market share position, Credit Suisse over 6 billion for about a third of the size of Morgan Stanley. I think that is why perhaps the Swiss regulators are a little bit more focused on the banks and their banking system.
And Alison, just quickly, this coming at a time when we did have the Wall Street CEOs testifying in Congress.
We did, and certainly the focus today, both Archegos and some of the issues that came up today are issues across investors, but the issues with the CEOs really did focus on sort of more the close-to-home issues, what happened over COVID. One of the issues that some of the politicians have focused on is lending, which has a little bit of irony because the banks, I think, have so much money right now to lend and are dying to make the loans out there. But we really did cover a broad range of issues. Another issue that came up is that of overdraft fees. This has actually been more of a commercial issue for the banks, where we've had a lot of fintechs coming in and not charging those fees, and sort of different pricing structures. But in general, we don't expect, Nathan Dean, who's our policy analyst, does not expect any new policies to come out of that process.